Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, whatever you want to call me, and I am back with part 3 of What If Deku Was Gojo's Descendant. I'm glad to see that y'all are enjoying the series. I'm enjoying making it. I'm not going to waste that much more of your time, though, and I want to just jump into exactly where we left off. That's where we're going to get into the internships, so let's get into it. Izuku Midoriya has a choice, and a plethora of them. He needs to figure out what he wants to do in terms of an internship. He needs to figure out where he wants to go. And frankly, he has so many choices to really choose from, but not many really catch his eye. But I will say, one does. One really does catch his eye. And that's the one and only Endeavor. It might seem weird, and it might seem odd, but at the end of the day, Endeavor would want to have someone like Izuku, like someone publicly like Izuku, someone that is going to be quote-unquote the next #1 hero, to come and be in his internship. Not only for publicity's sake, but also to help his own son get stronger. Because yes, Shoto Todoroki did decide to go with Endeavor. Not because he trusts his father, not because he's okay with his father, but actually because he's finally starting to use his firepower. And this was from the words that Izuku spoke to him not too long ago, telling him of maybe using and utilizing that power. And here and there, Izuku would drop hints about the fact that he really does need to use the power that he was gifted, in which is something that would lay pretty dormant within Todoroki for a while until the sports festival, in which Izuku did see Todoroki utilize it slightly, but still, he wasn't able to personally fight Todoroki, so maybe he can draw some of that power out of him when he goes to Endeavor's agency. He heads over to Endeavor's agency via a car that was sent to him, and when he arrives, Shoto Todoroki and Endeavor himself are waiting. Izuku would introduce himself, but Endeavor would tell him to be quiet, saying that they all know who he is. Izuku would laugh and honestly continue to laugh as Endeavor begins to explain what they're going to do. He tells Endeavor that his goal is to help Todoroki utilize his fire and also get stronger, because he wants someone beside him, especially someone that is in his own class, to be of adequate strength. That's why he's here. I mean, he doubts Endeavor can truly get the best out of his own son. And Izuku saying this would seem to be outlandish. I mean, honestly, who in the right mind would tell the #2 hero, more or less, that he can't train his own son? But, I mean, what is Endeavor gonna do about it? Absolutely nothing. I mean, for one, Izuku's a student, and if he attacks a student and actually injures him, I mean, the trouble he'll get into is immense. But who says Izuku wouldn't absolutely destroy Endeavor, obliterate him, leave him just laying there, more or less out cold? Even Endeavor doesn't know. Frankly, they all have seen what Izuku can do, so it's probably not worth the ego check to try and fight Izuku, especially because if it doesn't go his way, well, it's gonna look even worse than if it did go his way. Izuku would begin working with Todoroki, telling him that the power that he holds is a gift, not a curse. He wants to get this through to Todoroki. He says that quirk, his half and half quirk, is not his father's. If his father had Todoroki's quirk, maybe he would be the #1 hero right now. Endeavor hears this and just gets even more mad, but Izuku just kind of laughs it off, saying that of course he's just kidding. Endeavor doesn't have the work ethic to truly be the #1 hero and outdo someone like All Might. He would laugh once again, and this would just be getting under Endeavor's skin. Todoroki actually kind of enjoying this. I mean, he doesn't really like his father anyways, so the fact that Izuku is kind of clowning on his father throughout this time is kind of hilarious. Endeavor, at the end of the day, is kind of regretting this decision. He's the one that allowed Izuku to more or less come here and be a part of the internship, so the fact that he did that is kind of frustrating him now. He doesn't really want to deal with Izuku now. I mean, he's kind of annoying the hell out of Endeavor, but soon Endeavor would just decide to more or less just tell them all that they're going to be going to Hosu City for some patrolling, some in-field work. Izuku's excited about this. I mean, he's always been a big fan of getting his hands dirty, so he asks if Endeavor's really up to the challenge as well, because he knows that him and Todoroki are, in which Todoroki kind of chuckles at this, but Endeavor tells the kid just to shut up. They drive over to Hosu City, and quickly a realization would begin to rush over Izuku. It seems as if there's some things that are going to occur at Hosu City. Not as major as before. Of course, they don't have Kurogiri, making it a lot harder to transfer Nomus, but they do have All For One, and All For One decides to send off a couple Nomus for Shigaraki, just as a way of distraction. And maybe it's just Shigaraki's sadistic ways, and he just wants to see the Nomus completely destroy a city. But this time around, only sending about 5 or 6 Nomus. This does give the distraction for Stain. Stain wanting to hunt down some more fake heroes, but this time around, Stain doesn't even get the chance to more or less fight Tenya Ida, which, let's be honest, it wasn't really a fight, but he wouldn't even get the chance before Izuku would show his face. Izuku would see Stain and actually bring up the fact that he has a decent amount of respect for him, taking down heroes that are complete and utter fakes. I mean, there probably should be more of that in this world right now. Stain would look at him and believe that he's not a real hero, telling him that it's ironic coming from a fake himself. Izuku says that he's the furthest thing from a fake. Of course, he wouldn't go about killing these fake heroes. He would love to test all of them, though. He would love to make sure that they're truly prepared, because he knows there's a lot of people in this world that are quote-unquote heroes, but truly should not be them. Stain hears the words of Izuku and is slowly but surely being convinced, and Todoroki actually being with his father currently Endeavor, Izuku just slipped away. He didn't really want to bother Todoroki with this event. Maybe he should have, and it could have been beneficial for him, but Izuku says that he could handle this on his own. Tenya tells him that he wants to take on Stain by himself. He's gonna kill the monster. And of course, Izuku shakes his head. It's ironic, because Izuku would shake his head at the same time that Stain does. Izuku would tell Tenya to leave, now, or else. Stain would say the same, and would say that he wants to test this so-called true hero. Izuku would laugh and say that he is truly the honored one, that he might not be a pro hero right now, but he truly is the best. Stain laughs this off and charges toward Izuku, but Tenya refuses to leave. Tenya just wants to more or less stay around and kill the hero killer. He's still this rage, this vengeance is still boiling up, or boiling throughout him. But before the fight with Stain, Izuku more or less appears right in front of Tenya and apologizes, knocking him out quickly and throwing him back to the ground in a safe spot. Izuku says that unfortunately he'll have to speak with the young student. Yes, he's a student as well, but Tenya Ida should not be acting in such a way. Now, shall we begin, Stain? The fight would begin, and it would seem as if Stain could somewhat keep up. But that's really not the case. He has no means of even cutting Izuku, not even really touching him at all, but still, he's able to somewhat keep up in speed, but quickly Izuku would make it apparent that it's really not that easy. Izuku would make it extremely apparent that there is no keeping up with him, and that he is levels above Stain. But Izuku immediately tells Stain that just for him, he'll show something that he hasn't shown anybody before. Taking off his blindfold, and the eyes that he shows are kind of daunting. It's as if Izuku's power just ramped up even more from the vision, the overload that he's giving himself. Quickly and swiftly he would defeat Stain, covering his eyes back up once again, telling Stain that his ideals may be somewhat true, but he can't go around killing heroes just for the sake of killing them. There's rehabilitation for a reason, and maybe someday he can turn fake heroes into true ones. He would cuff Stain and drag him off, and as he brings him to the end of the alleyway, a couple people would actually show up. being that of Endeavor and a couple other pro heroes like Manual and some others. He would throw Endeavor Stain and tell Endeavor that he did one hell of a job. I mean, Stain was taken down so swiftly by the number 2 hero Endeavor. I mean, it was really impressive. Izuku laughs this off and begins to walk away. Endeavor looks at Izuku and is slightly frustrated, not liking the kid. He's too cocky. He's just like him. He's just like All Might. This would frustrate Endeavor a little bit, believing that there's just another All Might clone ready to take the place of the number 1 hero, ready to be the one ahead of Todoroki. This would frustrate him, but what is he supposed to do about it? Absolutely nothing. He can't do anything. I mean, even if he could do something, I mean, what would that even entail? He has no idea. With that said though, the credit would go to Endeavor, and everything would get ironed out more or less the same it did in canon, and Izuku would just get ready for whatever's to come at UA. And what's to come is actually the final exam. The final exam would involve a couple things. Obviously, your regular testing, so the written portion of the exam, and then the practical. Getting done with all the studying and stuff like that, and then passing the written, at least in his opinion, he would finally be ready for the practical, something that he's excited for. He assumes he'll be taking on some sort of cool hero or something of that major detail, but he hopes that he gets to fight one person and one person only. And quickly, he would realize that all the stars would begin to align relatively quickly. And that's with Izuku and Bakugo being the only 2 left. Bakugo being frustrated by this, saying that he doesn't want to fight with this idiot, and Izuku says that he's far from an idiot. I mean, has he seen the test scores? Izuku laughs, saying that he is technically, based on test scores, smarter than Bakugo. And Bakugo would get frustrated by this and try to disagree, but Aizawa chimes in, saying that is technically true. Izuku has been studying harder than usual, which is kind of funny, because in the beginning it didn't seem like Izuku cared much about this whole learning or testing stuff. Of course, Bakugo would be annoyed by this, saying that he won't be beat out by Izuku on every realm of the fascination, but this time around, he'll make sure to show up Izuku, especially in this so-called practical. Just as he says this, the person they'll be facing comes crashing down, and with a loud "I am here," well, you know who's here. It's All Might. It's All Might versus Izuku and Bakugo. Now, how will this fight go? Well, let's just say the advantage would definitely go to the side of the students. And not because of Bakugo, but because of the one and only, the honored one, Izuku Midoriya. When their fight would begin, the gates would swing open and they would charge forward, and Izuku would tell Bakugo that he'll give him his chance. He knows he wants to fight All Might, full-on brawl, hand-to-hand, right in his face. But after he sees that Bakugo can't handle All Might, he's going to jump in. And of course, Bakugo says there will be no need. He blasts Izuku in the face with an explosion, which obviously doesn't hit him, but still, it's like, worth the thought. He blasts forward toward All Might and begins exploding as much as possible on All Might, shooting explosion after explosion after explosion. But these explosions do nothing. I mean, literally and absolutely nothing. I mean, All Might's just standing there tanking him and eventually would grab Bakugo. Izuku would immediately appear as Bakugo is being grabbed, and he would gut punch All Might immediately and then kick him in the chest, sending him sliding away. Bakugo would get let go, and Bakugo would tell Izuku to lay off, that it's still his fight. Izuku says that if he didn't intervene, well, All Might would have broken him just then and there. So, no, it's his fight now. Izuku tells All Might that there's something that he's seen in All Might's, fighting style that is a fatal flaw. All Might kind of laughs at this and says that he would love to be educated by the one that is deemed as the honored one, or whatever he calls himself. All Might would come charging in with a smile, but Izuku would slip the punch relatively easily and land multiple blows to his stomach and also his face. All Might would be shocked, and as he throws punch after punch and more at insane speeds, Izuku would dodge, weave, and counterpunch every single thing thrown at him. At this point, Izuku has the upper hand, and All Might seems to be staggered quite a bit. He would tell All Might that there's one thing that he never learned, and that's hand-to-hand combat. He's always relied on his brute strength. Imagine if All Might learned hand-to-hand combat. I mean, he's a big dude, so it would be hard, at least in a technical sense, but All Might's strength is so incredible. If he just learned technique with those punches, I mean, he would be unstoppable. Like this All Might, Izuku would dodge underneath a punch All Might throws, and perfect technique would punch All Might directly in the kidney. Yeah, a kidney punch. He would hit him so hard that he would stagger back extremely, and even putting himself on the ground. All Might would wince in pain slightly, and Izuku would say that this fight is over. He would throw cuffs on All Might and say that it was an honor fighting him. It always is and always will be. But right now, All Might isn't what he used to be. He's not as peak as he used to be. So sometimes you need to learn to adapt. Yes, he's weaker now than he was years and years and years ago. But if he learns to hone his power into something greater, into more technique, I mean, he can survive in this world a little bit longer than he expects himself. Izuku would grab Bakugo and drag him off. As Bakugo is trying to punch him in the face and shoot explosions, Izuku continues to just drag him off to the finish line. All Might, hearing this, is shocked that his own student gave him a lesson that maybe All Might really needed to hear and really needed to know. He either needs to learn to adapt, learn to be different than a hero. It's not just brute strength. It's not just throwing your body into a punch as hard as possible. Sometimes you need to truly hone your skills, or he'll need to take a step back and not be the pro hero he once was and act like the one he is now. Izuku would carry Bakugo off as he's having his little tantrum. Izuku telling him that having a tantrum is for little kids and not for big boys like Bakugo. He would throw Bakugo toward Aizawa, and Aizawa would slap him in the head, telling him to stop being stupid because the only reason why they passed was because of Izuku's overwhelming strength. Bakugo would be frustrated by this, but would just ignore them, as Aizawa would explain what's to come next. The forest training. They will all go to this camp, and everybody will meet over there, and more or less they'll get a ton of training done. Even the people that failed, they will also go still, but just be ready for some extra classes. Izuku would hear this out and would be excited to see what's going on next. The forest training camp is going to be an amazing thing for everyone. Honestly, a great chance for everyone to get stronger and a great chance for everyone to get better. Now, what they didn't expect, though, was during this time, the villains would plan an attack on the training camp. And when the villains would come through, it would be an odd situation. They don't have Kurogiri at this moment. So, there's actually someone else that shows up. Someone else by the name of All for One. He has the power to send people, well, through portals and so on. And he decides that if they want something done right, he'll go with them to do it themselves or himself. All for One, Shigaraki, Dabi, Twice, and many others would arrive, and it would storm the forest training camp. And let's just say, Izuku has been waiting for a fight like this. He sees someone coming through, and he can sense someone powerful. Izuku would begin walking toward the forest, and he would see from a distance a boy by the name of Koda. Koda seemingly about to be attacked by a monstrous villain. Izuku would immediately dash over there in a matter of seconds, grabbing Koda and bringing him away to safety. The monster that was about to fight or about to kill Koda is confused, not knowing what just happened, but in a matter of a split second, one flash of light, Izuku punches him so hard that he's out cold in a crater on a wall. Izuku would then wipe his hands and then would begin to peel off his blindfold, putting it away in a pocket, and he would look up with his eyes glaring toward the man that is floating above. All for One. Izuku would begin floating as he hovers over to exactly where All For One is, walking or basically floating right in front of him and asking what he's doing here, truly what he wants. He says that it's really none of the kid's business, nothing that he can do about it anyways. Izuku says he disagrees, that this fight is something he's been looking forward to for a long time. He knows about the fight with him and All Might. He knows what All Might did wrong, and he knows exactly why All For One got out of there with only a messed up face. But this time around, there won't be just a messed up face. Izuku, well, is giving off a terrifying vibe. It seems as if this serious version of Izuku is truly, truly terrifying. He would raise up one finger and this red ball of energy begins to appear. All For One is completely shocked, but puts his hand out as if he's trying to block it. But as this red burst of this curse technique, this reversal red, comes soaring toward All For One, there is no stopping it. He gets blasted so hard he gets sent into a mountain, creating a massive crater. Everyone below, including the villains, are in complete shock. Did that just happen to All For One? Izuku would immediately follow up as he flicks his fingers, and this purple electricity would then begin to arise around him, sending another ball of this purple energy, sending it straight toward All For One. This energy seemed to be limitless. It was so potent and destructive that it was insane. It would collide with All For One, and Izuku would slowly float over to the crater that All For One lays in. Mass completely shattered, and All For One completely on the ground. The plan seems to be going off the rails so quickly. All they wanted to do was get Bakugo. That was it. What's happening? How is this happening? What the hell is that kid? Izuku would walk up to All For One, and he would mock All For One, saying that is he truly the one that gave, well, All Might himself such a hard time? This is insane, truly ironic. And All For One would immediately look up and grab onto Izuku's arm and says that is game over. Izuku would look at his arm and then look at All For One and then look back at All For One's arm. What do you think you're doing? I mean, seriously, what do you think you're doing? He cuts off All For One's arm and more or less raises it up and throws it to the side. All For One screams in pain. Whoa. I thought it was game over, Mr. All For One. I guess not, huh? He would grab All For One and say that even if he wanted to take his quirk, who says he could even control it? Who says he could truly even use it? All For One would try to create a portal, but Izuku would bring him up into the sky. No. There is no leaving. Izuku would immediately begin to use his domain expansion, Unlimited Void. He would tell All For One that there is no choice in this manner. He's going to fall right here and right now. In a matter of seconds, All For One is out cold and, frankly, in a far worse condition than you could possibly imagine. Izuku would be floating with more or less out cold All For One, getting held up by one arm. Izuku would look around to see that the other villains are stunned, shocked, and frankly, there's no way out. Izuku would tell Aizawa that it's time to go. He would immediately dash in, helping the rest of the students and heroes destroy Nomu or other villains that needed to be knocked out and defeated, and all of the villains and people that are currently there would be defeated extremely fast and extremely swift. I mean, they underestimated how strong Izuku was. I mean, ironically enough, they underestimated him, but still brought All For One. But it didn't even matter. It didn't even matter one bit. Izuku has said it before, his goal is to be the best, not only in Japan, but everywhere in the world. So this is just a start. They bring in all the villains, and the forest training camp would come to a close relatively early. But still, does it matter when you have shut down All for One and the entirety of the League of Villains almost in a matter of, well, just 30 minutes? Well, Izuku would be commended for this, would be applauded for this, but they would tell him that he can't really get the credit. And Izuku doesn't care. I mean, as long as they're off the streets and he doesn't have to deal with them anymore, that's all that matters. He'll be the #1 hero in the future. He doesn't need the title now. He would then say that All Might should get the credit. I mean, everyone thought that All Might was already going to be at the forest training camp. Let's just say that All for One invaded and All Might handled it. He would look at All Might and give a little bit of a wink after taking off a part of his blindfold, and then closes his eyes back up once again. All Might would say that he truly is an impressive one, stronger than even himself at this moment, maybe even stronger than himself when he was in his prime. He's impressed by Izuku. Beyond any of a shadow of a doubt, Izuku will be the #1 hero, and he will be the future of Hero Society. All Might saying this makes Izuku feel a little bit fuzzy inside. He thanks him for all the help and he's so grateful for all the stuff he said. He sounds sarcastic, but in a way Izuku is completely grateful. He just likes making jokes about super serious or sentimental situations. But still, I mean, it's just Izuku being Izuku. With that said, forest training camp over, All for One in the League of Villains completely captured and under wraps. I mean, what else needs to be done? What else needs to happen? I mean, Izuku handled that relatively easily, but luckily, there's still some things for Izuku to do. Yes, it might not be insane for him to do so, but he has a couple things that need to get done. For starters, they do work on their super moves and stuff like that, but Izuku has things so under wraps that it doesn't necessarily matter. Next is the more or less the hero licensing, or the provisional hero licensing exam, in which this would be super easy for Izuku. I mean, it wouldn't even be really a challenge at all. Izuku would take this on, and every aspect of it he would just destroy, easily pass. You're talking about the dodgeball type, you have the tag red lights portion, easy peasy, he finishes that in a matter of seconds. Are we talking about the rescue portion? I mean, he'll rescue anybody he has to, and it's super easy for him to do so. And when the villains begin to invade, or the fake villains with Gang Orca and the people that are instructed as actors, well, that goes easy as well. Izuku actually jumps in and defeats all of them before Todoroki and Inasa can make a fool out of themselves. So it's actually perfect for them because they don't actually, not get their hero or provisional hero license, which is beneficial for all of them entirely. In terms of Bakugo though, there's no helping him. I mean, he has no filter, he acts like an idiot, and frankly, it just ends with him, not getting his license. So he's really one of the only people that don't get his license. With that said though, I mean, everything kind of goes relatively similar, or basically the same, leading up to the fight with Mirio. This fight with Mirio is something Izuku really looks forward to. Yes, All for One was strong, but he was very one-dimensional. Izuku sees Mirio as a brand new hurdle. Yes, that might sound crazy. I mean, All for One is definitely stronger than Mirio, right? But still, he's a brand new hurdle. And eventually, when Izuku would more or less start fighting Mirio when all of his classmates are, knocked out by him, he begins fighting him and enjoys the feeling out process. He begins to spar. It feels like a spar with Mirio, and Mirio would begin to ramp it up. Eventually, it felt like Mirio was exceeding the normal capabilities of a peak human being, which does give him the idea that maybe he has an underlying power that he's not too talkative about. Izuku would bring this up, saying that it seems like he's getting faster by a percentage, 5%, 10%. How much is he using of the power that's dormant within him? Izuku would smile and say that even with that, he won't really be able to keep up, but it excites him. It's a new level to overcome. Mirio is shocked to see that Izuku has figured it out so quickly, has figured him out so quickly. Izuku says that his technique, his fighting style is so unique, it's even giving him a little bit of trouble. I mean, the phasing in and out and so on and so forth, it's so hard to predict, but still, it's so interesting, so fun. But after a while, Izuku would tell him that the fight has been over for a while. He apologizes for drawing it out, and he doesn't want to make him feel bad, but he would hit him on the back of the neck, and Mirio would stagger to the ground. He would sit down, and he would look at Izuku and smile, saying that Sir Night-Eye was very fond of him for a reason, and he can see why now. I mean, his power is amazing, immense. His technique in terms of, well, hand-to-hand combat is unrivaled. Mirio says that he would love to train with him again, especially after he maybe goes to Sir Night-Eye's work study, in which Izuku gives him a thumbs up, saying that he'll definitely be interested in Sir Night-Eye's work study. I mean, he assumes they got some big plans, so he definitely wants to go work with them. Mirio and Izuku, being that they have really similar personalities, would definitely be kind of like really good friends almost immediately. And frankly, he would just be excited to work with Mirio, and on top of that, work with Sir Night-Eye. Everybody in his class would be shocked, like, God, how much better is Izuku than everyone else? I mean, that's a pretty obvious, explanation. He's just, the honored one. I mean, throughout the heavens and the earth, he's just better than everybody. But still, I mean, they feel as if there's no catching up to him. They will try, but there is really no catching up to him. With that said, though, what is to come is Sir Night-Eye's agency. So, if you enjoyed this part, make sure to leave some love by hitting the like, the sub, and comment down below, all that good stuff. And just be ready for the next part of What If Deku Was Gojo's Descendant, and it probably will be the last part. I haven't decided yet, but if it's another 30-minute part, it's probably going to be the last one. With that said, I hope y'all enjoyed. I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.